Thanks for listening to Hustle and Heart. I'm your host, Edie Weintraub. Today, we're excited to spotlight Patricia Parks, vegan chef, a rising culinary star in Atlanta's vibrant food scene. Patricia has been on a mission to create delicious products and serve the Atlanta community we know and love through her wholesale pastry that she offered pre-pandemic with vegan macarons and pop-up chef series. Thank you so much for being here, Patricia. I'm excited to hear more about you and what you're up to today.
Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. So for those who have not had a chance to stop in and experience your delicious treats for themselves, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So I'm a Atlanta transplant. I came from New York. I am a first generation American. My parents and my entire family are actually Jamaican. So I came here on a mission after divorce to kind of like recreate a lot of different things and move forward in a really positive path. And recent, I came and I really went back into what I was doing in New York was creating my entrepreneurship endeavors, was just selling cakes, wedding cakes, birthday cakes, things like that. It actually blossomed to be quite successful. I started in my home kitchen and I ended up renting out a space in the West End, so a commercial space. I was there for about 2.5 years. I offered event cakes. The majority of my business was wholesale macaroons, as you mentioned, to 4 really amazing restaurants in Atlanta. So that was wonderful. I literally stopped right before pandemic. I continued a little bit during pandemic, but I stopped and I decided I wanted to sell food. I've always wanted to expand more on that side. I'm formally trained, but if you look at my 20 years experience, it's very heavy with pastry background. But I really wanted to just start cooking for people because when I cook for myself and my family, it's just such a joy to create beautiful things and to see their experience and their joy in having these foods and these things that I create. And I really wanted to move forward in my career with that. And so I closed down the pastry side of my business and kind of repackaged it I started with meal prepping. And then I created my company right at the end of the cake part, so all-purpose vegan, that's the name of that. And I was providing catering services as well. So this is where I got into some trouble because I was kind of doing like hodgepodge and kind of like, let me try this, let me try that, because I could do a lot of different things and not really haven't pinpointed the direction. But I ended up doing the dinners and that is something I still do today. So I don't do the catering anymore. I don't do the pastries, but I still do the dinners. And this summer I had a really amazing garden luncheon here with full tableside service, butler service. I had my sous chef and it was a mix between picking things out of the garden and creating those things with a 5-course menu for these ladies that joined us. And my chef would come out and grab things from the garden during the experience so they could see what he was putting together to finish off each dish. And I was at the table with the guests sharing the stories behind each course. So that is something is a true passion project for myself. And I would really, in the future, really want to expound on the dinners. And that's where I am now.
I love that. Well, we just did a Women in Restaurants Friendsgiving, and we had 20 chefs come and bring dishes, and then 30 people paid to attend. And so I love these shared experience dinners, not only to dine and be around others, but to hear the stories of the dishes. I think is so important. So I'm sign me up for the next one. That sounds amazing because you're literally seeing the transportation, get compressed because you're going straight from the garden to the kitchen.
Absolutely.
So tell us 3 factors that make your perfect day.
Wow. Definitely going out into the garden. I love, if I'm off from work, I have my breakfast, sit outside with my breakfast and enjoy just the sounds of the nature outside. I have a lot going on in my backyard right now. So, in this warmer months, we have all these birds out there and it's just being immersed in that space. That makes me feel amazing. It just makes me feel so good to be able to appreciate that. Playing golf, that's something I really enjoy. I picked that up this year. And reading. I've purchased so many books this year and I'm on a mission of really learning a lot, being more silent and patient and just really absorbing information. So those are the things that
What are some of the topics of books you're looking at? Do you do fiction, nonfiction?
They're a little bit culinary heavy. So as I said, like I formally trained, finished school like 20 something years ago, and I'm really in the space of reinventing in this new chapter of my life and moving forward and being being a sponge. Last New Year's Eve of 2023, I set out on a mission to really show up for myself this year, professionally and personally, and I've really been able to do that. This year has been absolutely fantastic, and I've just been showing up in all kinds of spaces that have allowed me to be just a student and just meet new amazing people. I've been in supper clubs. I went to DC for a culinary summit that's just for women. I even took a chance on taking this job that I have now and convincing the executive chef to hire me. Even though my resume was saying one thing, they hired me, and now I'm going to be meeting Thomas Keller in February next year. So I'm really, intentional about what I do, how I move, showing up for myself, and just being a great steward and student to the industry. And just this year has been phenomenal because of moving in that direction.
So tell me, have you always been vegan? And what was that journey like in regards to, perhaps how you grew up and what you were eating then, and how you discovered perhaps vegetarianism and then veganism? Walk us through that.
Yeah, so I definitely did not grow up vegan or vegetarian. I have, however, witnessed some things I forgot. So like as a young kid, I would always spend my summers in Jamaica. My family come from carpenters and farmers. And I've always seen them do things, but I don't ask questions. It's like, so-and-so's in the coffee field, or someone's working the land, sugarcane, or, digging up potatoes. And these are just normal things that I was seeing. I didn't inquire about it. And then to see my both grandparents in New York creating these little itty bitty farms in their properties in Queens and the Bronx, and growing everything and anything that they wanted in New York in a colder climate. I still didn't ask questions, but here I am now, 30 plus years later in my garden. And now, I'm just doing it. And how I ended up being vegan really was just by trying to improve my health. I had some issues a few years ago with high blood pressure, and just reading up about how you can combat some of these things without running to medication all the time, just simply changing a few things in your diet. So that's really where it came about, just trying to eat better and kind of improve my health. And now I believe it's been a blessing in disguise, because it just opened up this whole new opportunity for me to show up for my community and show up for myself and show up in the industry in a way that it just doesn't exist. There's a very specific goal I have for my career. I want to create some things. I want to be a bridge, and I want to just achieve everything that I set my heart out to do. So being vegan now, just for my health, has actually grown into something else.
So beautiful. I feel like you opened up that space, right? Without the weight of heavier items, right? Like there's still starches and things like that, but just the weight of fresh food and vegetables, I think it's especially when you're picking it directly from your garden. We did a event earlier this year when we went down to Comfort Farms, and we were gifted a lunch while we were there, and to know and see the farmer and see, where the food was being made and who's making it for you. I mean, the energy and the vibration of that food just felt so immensely amplified, because it didn't travel very far from where we ate it. So I'm really joyful about fresh food and being closer to the food. There was a period of time where I was raw. So for 9 months, I ate only raw, and I would warm things up a little bit with the dehydrator. I have never felt so good. I eat very clean now, but I stepped away from raw because I do feel like there's a couple of things that are a little bit better with a little bit of heat.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally understand that. And I am the last person to judge anybody about what they put in their mouth. That is your business, and I give everyone grace. I give myself grace, because we do have, all our bodies are not the same. We have the blood type thing is real, and you have to be careful even in being a vegan. But me right now, I'm totally 100% plant forward is a term I prefer to use more, because true veganism, I think I'm not really there in my entire life, but definitely plant forward when it comes to food. So if I could grow it, I'm going to try and grow it.
What are some of your favorite things that you love growing and has been successful in this region for you?
So I've started this 2 years ago, and I fell in love with it. I mean, it can be overwhelming at first because it's like totally unknown. But what I love about putting my hands in the soil and planning out this happened because I had like a water issue in my backyard. So we were really trying to like, what can we do with the yard so the water just stops destroying the yard and turn into, let's plant a vegetable garden. And so now I have I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 raised beds. Two of them are pretty big. They're 8 foot long. One is 14 foot. And I've grown from potatoes, sweet potatoes, broccoli, collard greens, cabbage, strawberries, different varieties of tomatoes, green beans, lots of peppers. Man, right now I have a huge bed of radishes growing. I'm in the winter season, so radishes and some greens are growing. I have lots of herbs, thyme. In the summer months, I harvest the flowers. Some of the flowers are actually medicinal. They're the bee-friendly flowers. You can use them. So I've made teas, tinctures, dressings. Like when I want a salad, I'll go outside and get the greens from outside and just make an amazing salad. Put some of the edible flowers on that as well. And I mean, it's just been such almost a spiritual journey as well. I mean, you can't get closer to God than gardening, you know. And I think at the end of it all, when I think back to my relatives, my grandparents, and my great grandparents or my ancestors, I find myself doing things that I have no idea how I know how to do those things. So like that's beautiful.
It also like reaffirms that connection. And, you know, it's innate, it's in you, and it's, you know, just continuing to weave the story of we. How did you end up in culinary? What inspired you to go down that path? Obviously, you know, yes, you saw your family, your grandparents in the garden and all of that, but was that initially your path, or were you heading in a different direction and then you changed course?
No, I'm one of those people that went to college for culinary, and that's what I've always done. My first job at 14 was, I used to sell shoes at a store called Baker's. So I was like, that could have been a little hindsight there. But yeah, I've always been in customer service, hospitality. That's like the only thing I know how to do. I finished high school. I went to New York City College of Technology in Brooklyn. Some pretty prominent people have actually also come from that institution as well. From there, I went to Disney World for my first internship, and I've just been hitting the ground running, working in some restaurants in the city in New York, and then ended up in pastries and kind of stuck there for a while. And then I came to Atlanta, worked in some more pastry shops, and now I am in a hotel for the very first time. I've never worked in a hotel before in all these years, and I really took a chance with that. You hear different stories about working in hotels. It can be overwhelming. It could be very demanding, almost like being in a cruise ship. Like this hotel happens to be one of the biggest hotels in Atlanta right now. It's 900 plus rooms. So it's very, it's a lot of work, but I feel like it's the right time, right place. I could have worked at a hotel at anywhere, but for whatever reason, I'm here with these people, and I have to say it's like kismet, because I really feel seen there. There was an event at the hotel, in the back of the hotel outside, and it required a plant-based menu, and the marketing team and the executive chef, they were like, put Patricia on it, let Patricia do it, let her run it. And I was shocked that I had only been here a few months, and they put me in charge of this event with the guests of like, it was 900 plus people. But I got to see how this machine really works, how you orchestrate feeding that many people. And I was fascinated because I really, I put it together and I did the food, but then like the way it moves, it's not all me. And that was my issue when I was an entrepreneur, doing everything. But here in this space, I have a team of like 25 people moving things, people assisting me. And by the time the event came, I just had to show up at my best and just be amazing for myself in the hotel. And that's what I did.
What a great experience. That's phenomenal. So what dishes were you surprised were so popular? What caught you off guard, perhaps? Like, of course, right? Like, you're very proud, you're putting out amazing dishes, but I'm very curious to hear the feedback of what was unique to people that they didn't anticipate.
From my own menus?
From the menu that you did for this event.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So the guests were not vegan. So, and I think I deal with that a lot at my own events. The guests are not always vegan. And I love that. I say it's just food. It's for everybody. It's not sequestered just for these people. Or I cook for everyone from the heart. And I tell them, like, I promise you, I'm not going to give you grass. Like, the food is delicious. It's seasoned. You're going to love it. I promise. And they were, of course, very reluctant because there was 2 dishes we made: kombu watermelon, which is like the process of taking watermelon and doing like a Japanese style, like with a seaweed, and you do like kombu. It kind of comes out with like a tuna. And then the second thing I did was a fried banana blossom. So it's just kind of like to trick your eye. Am I giving you 2 fish? I'm not giving you 2 fish, but these 2 items look like fish. They were like, a fried what now? A banana blossom. And then I'm like, it's not that deep. It's just banana, And I think it's kind of like just getting people to like unlearn, or, you do eat vegetables all the time. Seasoning is actually vegetables. But I think it's always, I'm not surprised. They're always surprised that they actually enjoy what they are eating. And I tell them what's in it. They want to know what is it, how, and, some people were very reluctant. I have had a few people I remember that refused to try it, afraid that they would like it, I think. I don't know. But yeah, we had people like not wanting to try it. They were like, I want to go. I'm like, you can actually eat this and still go over to the other vendor and have the pork and the chicken. It's okay. Nothing's going to happen. Right. You can eat it all, So it was a good time. It was a great experience. And we actually did really well. We sold a lot of those dishes. So
yes, I'm very excited to hear that. I think, like you said, it's a lot of just education, right? I think people are so fearful, or either just also not curious because they don't know, they haven't been exposed to it. And so I appreciate that you're, like, why would you not want to eat something that's called banana blossom? It sounds amazing and delicious. And obviously banana's in the name, so that there's going to be a banana in it. And the blossom sounds like a flower. So you're eating a banana flower.
Right.
I love that, because I think the more that people are exposed to it, the more they're open to it, and the more that they're, encouraged to try new things. What advice would you give someone that is perhaps considering the hospitality industry?
Don't get lost in the sauce. Show up as your most authentic self. Ask questions. Even if you've been to culinary school, you do not know everything. I finished school 20 years ago, and who cares? I show up to learn. That was like one of the biggest things I kept saying in my job interview. I'm not here for money. I'm here to learn. So if I'm not learning, I'm not happy, So I've had amazing jobs. The money was great. I was miserable. So I would say just show up, listen, ask lots of questions. People love when you ask questions. They love that. It shows that you really care about what you're trying to do. And eat a lot, for sure. Like, eat. I'm planning my trips. I love to travel, and where are we going to eat is part of the itinerary. Like, we do food tours on our trips. And immerse yourself in the culture of this industry as well. And then figure out and just try everything from, obviously, if you start in garde manger or you start in pastry, see if you could be in a environment that allows you to move around through the kitchen and see where you fit. Now, me personally, I work in the hotel, and that's my day job to do that culinary position. However, my true passion is outside of the hotel, with my hands in the ground in the gardens and working with those people. I'm in a horticulture club now as well. So that's what my heartstrings really pull towards the other side of the industry, which is looking at our food systems. Like, that is a huge focus for me, sustainability and such.
Well, I have so many people to introduce you to. So tell us a little bit about what changes or growth opportunities you see in food and beverage in the next couple of years.
Obviously, technology has been a huge influence on most industries, especially with, out on the outside of the restaurant with the delivery services, the Uber and the things like that. But on the inside, you're seeing them showing robots coming into the kitchens, fast food industries, dropping fries and taking orders and all of that. I think we really have to pay attention to these new things that are happening, because while it's great that we advance, what's happening behind the curtain. I mentioned the food systems could really use some urgent attention to sustainability and food waste and things like that. Where are we sourcing everything? And are we being responsible? And what does our carbon footprint look like? Even just you yourself, like, that's where you always start for change. So I think the industry know, we always got to eat, but I think to protect the ocean and to protect the animals and all of that, we really got to do better so the industry can grow in a more progressive way. There's a lot of work to be done, but food waste is like a huge thing. I think it's really irritating, actually. Really good food goes in the trash, and we could, feed a lot of people with that.
I have a dear friend who's based in Chicago, and she rescues food and she prepares 3 hot meals a week for the unsheltered. So yeah, I'm just continually blown away at the amount of food that is, gifted to her.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot.
Overwhelming as well, which is why we have a lot of organizations in Atlanta, like Umi Feeds is a great one, but it's really overwhelming to be a part of nonprofit and do that work. Like I take off all the hats and give all the flowers, because that work is so selfless and it's really exhausting, and it's really hard if you don't have the support and the resources from the community. So I think, for me, to your point about bringing up your friend, I do that as well. My family does that sometimes. You don't always have to be running to the soup kitchens on Thanksgiving to like feed as many people or do all of that, or go to the Meals on Wheels. Like, that's great. But even if you yourself can just put some packages together to people. I think we have a huge homeless problem here in the city. So, I mean, we do that sometimes. We go out and just deliver some things to people. We can kind of see where they are and just ask them what they need, and they'll tell you. And they're very specific, and they know exactly what they need. And they're a little picky too. But we just go to the store and come back, and we just go get the things that they need. Sometimes what they need is what they need. Is not always rescuing.
Sure.
They're comfortable outside as well. So they're like, I just need camping equipment. I just need what I need. So you can just start there. You see people, pull up and ask them, what do they need? And they'll tell you,
That's really beautiful. So in your travels, because I know that you've been traveling internationally, where have you been that anytime you think about it, you go, man, that was such a memorable experience. Memorable experience. I'm so glad I made the investment in myself to have that time to do that.
I went to, it might be Montreal and Toronto. We just went there in August.
Yeah.
It was one of those places. I'm a foodie for sure. And so I plan the trips. I have to have a really great food experience, and it was definitely memorable. It was a little eye-opening as well. I feel like every time you leave North United States, your eyes are open to some things. One, like where our food comes from and things like that. The conversation about our labels and what's allowed in America and what's allowed overseas as far as the dyes and the things like that. So that is really obvious to me. As far as food, we went to a beautiful, huge market, and just looking at the vegetables and the fruits and the sizes of them, like these are the actual size of blueberries. These are the actual size of berries and peaches and these things. But when we see it in our stores, they're ginormous, and like really makes you think. Even if you're not going to be plant-based, you can't ignore that our food is souped up on something. It's GMO to the max.
Yeah.
So at least traveling really gives me like this awareness of where we are in this country and what personally or in my family or even just as a culture that we maybe need to do a few things different. But that's what I love. I love traveling. I love being around the locals, where they eat, what they're doing. If we go somewhere that's safe enough for us to drive around and we love that stuff. So I really enjoy that.
I think it's really important, right? Because then you get to experience other cultures through the food that's on your plate. It's
absolutely
beautiful. Where can our listeners get more information about you and your work?
You guys can find more info on me on Instagram at instagram.com, or you can visit my website, www.allpurposevegan.com, where you can see links to my YouTube platform where I interview local farmers and homesteaders around Georgia. And I get tours, and we can talk about why they're doing what they're doing, talk about the whole food system and everything, and how we can continue to teach people how to grow food. And I'm learning myself because I'm only in my year 2, but I just find it fascinating to grow food in this amazing spectrum And for me to have the ability to bring it from farm to table, I just really love sharing that.
For sure. No, it's so much fun. I love this. So I would really love for you to also share, do you have any upcoming supper clubs or pop-up dinners on the calendar for early 2025 that we need to start scheduling for?
Yeah, so for sure, I would say people should definitely hit up my website, subscribe so you can get email when I drop information about my upcoming dinners. I want to actually do that biannually. So around the seasons, when the flowers are out, and then another in sometime in the summer. This one we did was in July. It's a little hot, but we have a lot to navigate the rains and kind of giving the vegetation a chance to actually grow. But I think I want to do one for sure in the spring and then another in the summer. So I'll definitely have that information up on my website and people will hopefully be able to tell. I want to do a big one. This one I did only had 10 seats. I would love to do something with maybe 20 seats. And that definitely leads into a goal of mine. I feel like I've always shied away from the idea of having a restaurant. But I think what it is the American style of a restaurant. I don't want to do that. I think it needs to mirror the way I live. So like this whole idea of going outside and just grabbing the harvest and preparing that for people, that's more of the concept of what I want to do.
Let's definitely coordinate that. I can help you. There's also a couple of phenomenal musicians that can perform for us while we're eating, where maybe there's a way to kind of meet the musician in advance, talk to them about obviously what's in season, and infuse that in a way where you get this musical experience mixed with the beauty of being outside, but also having the dishes that are right from the garden.
Yeah, that sounds great.
All of the above. Beautiful. Well, Patricia, thank you so much for sharing your story, your creative process, and the love you pour into every dish and every event. Your journey from macarons to pop-up dinners and into the hospitality is a true testament of the power of community and the magic of freshness and flavor. To our listeners, please do not miss the chance to experience the all-purpose vegan yourself, supporting local, tasting boldly, and until next time, keep savoring the flavors and celebrating the makers who bring them to life.
My name is Patricia Parks, and you're listening to Hustle and Heart.